Alright everyone, this video is going to be talking about some things I found interesting in volume 52, named Roger and Rayleigh. You might be asking yourself, wait, you're just reviewing the volume? Not exactly. So if you guys have been in my streams, you know I was on this dope podcast called Piecemeal. I put a link to them in the description box below. They are a group of friends that have current manga readers that are reading along with their new manga reader friends in a book club style format where they read a volume of One Piece every week and review it together. They invited me onto their podcast, so I got to take part in their episode for volume 52. And let me just say, the timing could not have been better considering Roger just got mentioned again in the current manga. And I got to play Rayleigh in a reading segment of their episode. It was a lot of fun and they give off a very familial vibe. And if you want to hear more of me talking about One Piece, definitely go check out that episode and tell them who sent you. Anyways, given the context of their podcast, there were a lot of things I couldn't exactly share because they would be current manga spoilers for the new readers. But you know me, I couldn't hold it in. So here's some of the interesting things I caught in volume 52 when I reread it. And so if you're new to my channel, the way I view the world is by making connections. So let me connect you to my vision, the ParVision. So this volume opens up with one of the greatest punches in fiction. It's the one where Luffy cracks Charlos's reality open with his bare knuckles. And I remember when I watched this in the anime, my reactions were exactly the progression of what Oda showed. From shock to scared to ouch to nah, yeah, he deserved that to wait a moment to Law and Kid being like, all right, this is going to be an exciting volume. Thanks, Luffy. But so skipping to the important line, Saint Roswald says here, we are descended from the creators of the world. So this is still relevant, obviously, but now that we have a god fruit, I think this line is even more important because I think it's reasonable to understand that Sun God Nika is probably not the creators of the world that the celestial dragons come from. So that means there's something or someone or a group possibly that is equal to or greater than Sun God Nika. I say that because Sun God Nika was awakened 800 years ago, and still the celestial dragons and world government gained supremacy and were the de facto winners of whatever happened in the Void Century, unless Sun God Nika was an ally to them, which it doesn't really seem like the case. But yeah, so another really important thing that I want to point out is that in the entirety of One Piece, there's only 3 characters to ever be shown to hit a celestial dragon that weren't celestial dragons themselves. Otahime being an important one, and Luffy being the obvious one, but this one is the hilarious, but I think important one that is in this chapter. It's Usopp. Usopp bops Saint Roswald with his butt cheeks, making him the only other Straw Hat to properly strike a celestial dragon. Zoro said he would, and didn't, and Sanji hit Roswald's gun, but not him. But Luffy and Usopp are the only characters in the entire series to hit a celestial dragon, and I can't help but think that this was the setup for the only 2 characters in the next 500 plus chapters later to gain the title of gods. These are the only 2. But okay, going back to the volume. So this next part in chapter 503, I'm gonna skip the part where Rayleigh appears out of the back of the stage. I'm skipping it because I have nearly 15 minutes of analysis of just this scene saved for my Conquerors Hockey video. It's super exciting because I think this scene still demonstrates hockey to a level that's still not fully realized even in the current manga. And now that Kaido has said that peak hockey is all that's needed to conquer the seas, and that hockey transcends all other powers, it makes this scene even more important because I'd consider Rayleigh a man with the capabilities of peak hockey, but just not the aspirations or desire to fulfill any dream besides being a supporting spectator. So anyways, this next part is such a solid setup, and given the context of everything else going on, like in this volume is when we learn of the Paramount War, where Whitebeard is going to go save Ace, we meet all the worst generation, an admiral comes in, we meet Rayleigh and learn about Roger and the truth of his life story, and it's just so much more. This volume is so important, but also we learn of the major plot line of the time skip, like the entire time skip. I'm going to be bringing this up a lot in my future videos, but this panel where Disco is telling the owner of the auction house of the situation at Sabodi. Who is the owner? It's Doflamingo. And what does he say? He says slave trading is getting old. This is the era of the smile. Like, goddamn, Oda was setting up smiles for so long and in such a grand way. And then going into chapter 504, it continues the setup of the future of One Piece, the lineup and even the dialogue of Luffy, Kid, and Law, were just like hilarious given the current manga. Like Oda made a direct callback to chapter 504 in chapter 975. The same lines, just in a different, way different context. Then just skipping ahead real quick in 505, this panel is even funnier because by this point, we know Luffy as a rubber man. Then we're seeing Kid's magnetic powers and it's insane. And then Law's powers, which by this point is just like, what in the world is going on? But then we get this panel, where ironically, despite how simple and straightforward Luffy's power was supposed to be, the other captains say Luffy's power is the strangest. They knew. Luffy's sun god Nika power is definitely the strangest. And then Luffy shows off gear 3, and this is where he says, this arm is the arm of giants. Like, there's so many things in the last few panels of these chapters. They're just like, they just hit so different when you reread them given the current manga knowledge. But anyways, back to one thing in chapter 504, the crew and Rayleigh save the people who are about to be sold off as slaves in the auction house, and the giant is giving his thanks, and who is the person who accepts the gesture? It's Usopp. It's like foreshadow to Dressrosa. I just thought that was hilarious. But now another quick point out, in 505, Brook shows off a lullaby parry. He could just put people to sleep. That's a super interesting power. I wonder how this power relates to his powers overall, and maybe if they relate to Conqueror's Haki in a way. And then we get to one of the most important chapters in not just this volume, but maybe the entire series of One Piece, and it's titled Roger and Rayleigh, chapter 506, pointing out the significance of 5 and 6 being in this chapter. So there's a lot of things to talk about in regards of this chapter, but I want to focus on a few choice things. First thing I want to bring to your attention is listen to how Rayleigh met Hachi. Zoro asks, why is someone like you such close friends with the octopus? Zoro saying someone like you because Rayleigh just finished disclosing that he was the first mate of the Pirate King's crew, and he's Dark King Silver's Rayleigh. And by the way, I want to make a video of just Rayleigh that's just pure appreciation, because Rayleigh has to be one of my most favorite characters in all of like fiction in general. Just the way he showed up was so cool. But anyways, so Rayleigh responds to Zoro with, Hachi saved my life when I was lost at sea 20 years ago. Shaki adds, he saved Ray's life. And to add context, Roger was executed 20 years before. So that means 2 years after Roger died, Rayleigh was lost at sea? Let me repeat that. Rayleigh was lost at sea. Rayleigh, the Dark King, the first mate of the Pirate King, no devil fruit, Haki master, a legend himself, the man who we saw swim through the calm belt without a ship, alone, unafraid. This man was lost at sea? What does that even mean? He doesn't even need a boat. How could he be in a state where Hachi as a kid could ever save his life? None of that makes sense, and it's such a random detail to add in such an important chapter, is it not? And so you guys know that this chapter holds a special place in my heart given my own health situation, but it's become relevant again now that Kaido has talked about Roger in such a powerful light, and that Roger conquered the sea with Haki alone. And it was just a great reminder to one of my original videos about Roger. If you haven't seen it, I would check it out. It's an oldie but goodie, and maybe you learned something about me that you never knew. And so all of this takes us to another important panel in chapter 507. This panel alone is going to be a really important focus for a lot of my videos moving forward. So Rayleigh, through conversation, told Luffy that Shanks was also on Roger's ship and was surprised that Shanks never told Luffy himself. So I just want to clarify something real quick. Rayleigh was the first mate and Shanks was just an apprentice. Rayleigh has seniority, and even we see adult Shanks refer to Rayleigh with respect and giving him seniority. Rayleigh is the man with knowledge of the true history, and most of the crew should be in the same boat, except for Shanks and Buggy, since they didn't go with the crew to Laugh Tale. And there also seems to be some kind of unspoken system that the crew has in guiding or observing the new age of pirates, where Crocus is at the start of the Grand Line, Rayleigh is at the end of Paradise, and Shanks is in the New World. But this is the line that has me a little caught up in things. Rayleigh tells Luffy, I shouldn't babble on about things that Shanks didn't tell you about. Anyways, I'm glad that you made it all the way here. He should be waiting for you in the New World. So taking this in reverse order again, Rayleigh seems recluse and doesn't really know what anyone else is doing, but all things considered, he confidently tells Luffy Shanks is in the New World waiting for you. But then going back to the first statement, why is Rayleigh seemingly giving Shanks' directive so much weight? Like, Rayleigh is the first mate with the knowledge of the true history, and yet he is almost like, I don't want to mess with Shanks' plan or guidance. This line makes it feel like there's a plan that Shanks has that someone at even Rayleigh's level doesn't want to mess up. It's really weird because Shanks is in such a small way given such massive importance and priority. Like, one of the things being hidden is the true nature of Luffy's fruit. Is that something Shanks knew and also Rayleigh knew, but for some specific reason didn't want to tell him about? What other pieces of information could Rayleigh have told Luffy that would have specifically interfered with Shanks? Again, it's just odd, especially because Rayleigh at this point has his own stakes in Luffy. He has been looking forward to meeting him already, is so happy to hear that he is like Roger, and by the end of everything sticks his neck out more than once for Luffy's sake. So all of the setup for Rayleigh's character makes me wonder if Rayleigh going over to train Luffy was also part of Shanks' master plan. Rayleigh never forced Luffy to train, he went there with the suggestion, which is kind of interesting. Now, what's interesting here is, yeah, he could like Luffy a lot, but Rayleigh wasn't even motivated to see Roger's last breath in Logtown. Rayleigh wasn't motivated to even search out his own crewmates that he cares so much about. It really doesn't seem like Rayleigh does much besides coach ships, scam slavers, and just living life as an old legend in hiding. He also doesn't seem like someone who can really sail a ship, as he got lost on the sea alone before, and apparently on his way to Amazon Lily, he got shipwrecked and had to swim over. And keep in mind, last time he was lost at sea and Hachi had to save him, but this time he was like, nah, I gotta make it to Luffy and give him this suggestion. But by the end of the time skip, Rayleigh claims Luffy to be a student of his, but really only taught him the basics of haki. And the last things we see as the Straw Hats leave is Rayleigh saying Luffy has grown so much and is worthy of that hat. It might not be a bad thing to live just a little longer. And that right there just further emphasizes that before all of this, Rayleigh had no stake to living in the world. He was just on autopilot essentially. So maybe that's why he went out of his way to train Luffy, but he also said the people who create the times are those living in the present. And Rayleigh is not one of those people, nor does he want to be. Yet he played such a heavy hand in training Luffy. So maybe going back to the first line where he said, I shouldn't babble on about things that Shanks didn't tell you, maybe it's also that Shanks asked Rayleigh to train Luffy after seeing Luffy in Marineford. When you think about it, Sabaody isn't that far from Marineford, so it wouldn't be too hard for Shanks to drop by and be like, hey, I need you to train Luffy before he comes to the New World. At the end of the day, though, I think we are going to see that Shanks played a very calculated role in how he operated as a pirate, maybe not too differently from how Doflamingo had his hand in everything. Shanks might share a lot of similarities with that monster, but maybe in a different light. It's an interesting thing to think about, and I do want to cover some other details that I caught in this volume, but I'll save it for next time. If you guys like this style of video where I reviewed old chapters like this in a chronological system, let me know. One Piece is literally a never-ending masterpiece filled with endless details and genius, and it just gets you excited to talk about things. Again, make sure you guys check me out on episode 52 of the Piecemeal podcast. I'm looking forward to talking way more One Piece with you all. If you want to support me, honestly, the best way to do that is to share my videos and spread my name. Tell your favorite creator about me and get all your friends on my channel. Also, check out my Twitch or Twitter, follow and subscribe. If you want other ways to support me, I have a few referral links and several other ways to help out. And so, like always, thank you for connecting with me, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you all on the next ParVision.